3000.
What is doing? My name's Maloney. This is the 3000 podcast. I'm joined today by a writer, poet, rapper, singer, artist. Did I forget anything? Grace Chia, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Did I get it all?
Yeah, I put on events as well.
Event promoter.
Yo.
Okay.
Thank you so much, though.
No worries. Thanks for coming. You are not from here at the moment, but you spent a lot of time in Melbourne. You have grown up here.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to dive into your story that features Melbourne and also Tassie. So let's kick it off at the beginning. Whereabouts did you grow up?
I grew up in Northcote and then I moved to around the Baldwin area when I was like 5. I lived there until 15 and then moved to Tassie.
What took you to Tassie? Family.
Family. My mum's from Tassie. We had a lot of really unexpected family deaths when I was in high school. So my auntie died and her eldest daughter died a year later and my granddad had died the year before. So it was like a lot of consecutive unexpected deaths. And my mum became next of kin of all of my aunties, like 6 kids.
What, 6?
Yeah. So some of them were in their 20s, like just early 20s. And so we moved over to be close to family and like all be together, go through that together.
That's just moving interstate is enough of a change for a kid in high school, but then to all of a sudden have your family unit totally disrupted and all that, that's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, they were already living out of home and so we were kind of like all living in different houses and stuff. But I think because we've all experienced a lot of grief in a very short amount of time, we're a very close family because of that. Yeah.
And I guess the positive out of it is you still have a large family there. It's not like I was talking to someone yesterday and they lost their mum. It's just them by themselves. So at least you had the solace that you had a larger family, I guess, through that sort of period.
Yeah, 100%.
And before you got to Tassie, did you start your musical journey here in Melbourne?
So I was doing like choir and stuff in school and I was writing poetry. But I really struggled with my mental health when I was living here. I didn't really have any friends.
And this is before the traumatic stuff.
Yeah. I was not doing very well. And so I think that's why it was easy for me to move because I didn't really have anything that I felt tied to here when I moved. And I think all of the art was just a very like isolated thing that I wasn't really sharing with people. When I was living here, yeah.
It was a form of therapy.
Yeah, definitely. It's always been, a form of therapy, yeah.
Which is interesting because now you put it out there, but I guess at that time you were just using it for yourself. You were writing, you were singing to yourself, but you just didn't think it was something you needed to share with others?
Yeah, I think it was just like, a means to get by. Like I would spend a lot of time by myself, so I would just make stuff. I was really into photography when I was living here. I was a photography assistant for a couple of photographers in Richmond. And then I worked as a retoucher for some photographers here. And so I was really into photography and drawing and like all just kind of visual art stuff. And then writing poetry. I'd just gotten into slam poetry when I left. And then when I moved to Tassie was how I like fell into that scene in Launceston. Yeah.
So Lonnie, so not Hobart, Launceston.
So moved to Launceston.
So there's not a lot going on in Launceston, but there's a little bit of an art scene.
Yeah, I remember when I moved and people from Melbourne were like, "Are there even supermarkets in Launceston?" Like, look, there definitely are.
there's not 7-Elevens.
There's no 7. There's nothing like past like 10. You can't get food. Unless you get Macca's, that's all we've got.
But you know what spins me out? Now, I've had a lot of friends from Hobart and they're like, yeah, there's public transport. You can get a bus, but sometimes they'll come every 45 minutes and sometimes they don't come at all.
Yeah. Yeah, where I live in Claremont, now I live in Hobart, they're once an hour and often they won't come.
That's what they tell me. They're like, it's not like they're delayed. They go, sometimes they just don't turn up.
Yeah, and you don't know until you're like there for like 20 minutes past the time.
So there's no app or anything?
I'm getting an Uber. Sometimes, because a heap of lines got cancelled because of the drivers getting abused. And so then they are really understaffed. So a lot of the lines got cancelled because of that. And they're kind of bringing them back a bit now. And so you could kind of read online, some of them would update and then some of them just wouldn't, and you'd just be at the stop like, what do I do?
But that's got to be so hard for the youth. Like,
It's so bad.
What do you do? Like, if your parents can't drive you places, you don't have public transport, how do you get out of your neighbourhood?
Yeah, no, I've had mates who live like either up north with Lonnie or down south, like further down, and their bus, like they've missed the bus and they just walk for like hours to get home or like hitchhike the way home as like kids.
That's dangerous, man.
That's Tassie though.
And that's just like part and part. Yeah, that's just Tassie.
Yeah.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is crazy.
Well, but no, I shouldn't say it's crazy. That's the way it is. But I guess once you've been here for a while, it must be a big change to go there and be like, oh, there's no trams every 5 minutes.
Literally, like, I remember moving there and I wanted to, like, go, I think I was taking photos or going rollerblading or something in the middle of the night, and it was, like, midnight and there's just, like, no one. And when we first moved, I was living right in the city centre in Launceston. There was just nobody. Yeah. It was crazy. Yeah, for, like, ghost town. But now Hobart's not like that. It's a little bit more busy. It's not Melbourne, but, yeah.
No, but it seems to be that it's definitely changing, but people there don't want it to change.
No,
You know? They don't like that change. They enjoy where they are and their little slice of peace.
I think, like, I love Tassie, and people are really, like, when you meet someone, that's who they are. There's not that kind of, like, facade, and there's not really, like, social climbing or career climbing. It's just, like, you are who you are, and I think that's really sick. People are really down to earth there.
Yeah.
You can walk along the street, someone will smile at you, get a coffee, talk to the person, the barista and stuff, and people have time for that. Whereas I feel like Melbourne's really busy. Everyone's, like, got their agenda. Yeah.
And for sure. When you move, like, lived in the city pretty much my whole life, moved down here, and, like, you know, in the supermarket line, people will just have a chat.
Yeah.
In St Kilda, they're not. They're like, fucking hurry up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that is, it depends where you are, but yeah, the hustle and bustle does change the further out you get for those sort of areas. But I just feel for the kids that can't get around.
Oh, the kids, yeah. It's a real hectic, it's way worse in Launceston. The public transport is just atrocious there.
Yeah.
If
so
you're
what are
like,
kids supposed to do?
well, it's like, it's crazy because I remember when I was growing up and kids would just be, you know, being rat bags in the mall, and then, like, the mall is like the city centre. And if you're doing that, then you can get a mall ban. And so then you can't be in the mall between these hours of the day. So you finish school and you've got to, like, exit. And then, like, yeah, it's just, and that's what happens in Glenorchy as well, which is like one of the suburbs kind of more known for youth crime, where they, you're not allowed to, like, loiter in groups, or you get, like, a ban from the area, but, like, this is their home. They don't want to be at home for, like, very obvious reasons. What do you want them to do?
That is so counterproductive.
Yeah.
Like, you can't hang out with your peers in your own area that you live, but you also don't have public transport to take you anywhere else.
Yeah. And we've got Youth Arc in Hobart, which is an amazing youth rec centre, and that's been running for many, many years. But in Launceston, there's no youth rec centre. There's nothing for young people to do that's free. So.
Yeah, and then you wonder why kids get themselves in trouble.
Yeah,
Literally,
100%.
There's not enough for them to do creatively.
Yeah. Yeah, I was really lucky to get funded by MONA Arts Centre this year to put on some hip-hop workshops for young people. And that's something I'd really like to just introduce more for, like, that greater Glenorchy area, to have workshops that get kids into the different elements of hip-hop, so that we have, like, they're able to practice skills and do things and connect to culture and connect with people and have something to do at home or, like, do wherever they are, because there aren't any alternatives. And then we have so much prejudice and stigma against these kids, but we don't have any actual, like, alternatives. So it's like, what do you want kids to do?
Yeah. And when you say prejudice and stigma, is it just because they're teenagers getting in trouble? Is there racial stuff? Is it what? It's just them
It's literally because they're kids wearing TNs, and that's enough for people to be like, I don't trust you, don't come into the shop. And there are heaps of kids that are causing trouble, like, you know, but what else are they meant to do? And if you're going to look at someone and be like, you're not going to amount to anything, you're going to fuck up, you're going to do this, why would you try to do anything different, you know? So
yeah, that's that perpetuates. If you tell them you're a piece of shit, you're not allowed in our shop. Well, what are they going to do next time? They're going to throw rocks at your shop. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah.
That's it. It's just perpetuating it.
Yeah, they need people that have belief in them. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're pushing in the right direction with those sort of programs, and that's awesome. But let's get back on your journey. We're not going to solve Tasmania's youth crises.
Let's go.
Right. Yeah, well, we're trying. But no, that's awesome that you're moving in the right direction. But I guess you had those sort of opportunities here in Melbourne, but then you moved to there.
Yeah.
You don't have those things as much. Is your school arts focused? Are people getting the poetry and stuff when you move over there?
So when I first moved, I got a scholarship to a private school for arts.
Cool.
Which was cool. I really hated the school though. I think it was just like a Christian school, and they were very strict, and their rules were just wild. Yeah. And I think because it's a small town, like the people who were in that school felt very protected by their very rich families who like were powerful in that community to treat people really badly, but they didn't feel like they would have any repercussions.
Wow.
Yeah. So there was like
Sounds extremely toxic.
It was like a movie when I moved there. Yeah. I remember the guys there was a boarding house there, and the guys in the year I was in and the year below me were collecting girls' nudes on a hard drive and renting it out to other guys in different schools and like profiting off that.
Surely they got in shit.
And they didn't get in any trouble for that because it was just like all their families. Like it was crazy.
And it just got swept under the rug.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a very weird environment. I had a great arts program. I didn't really speak to those people. I think I'd been bullied for many years in Melbourne. So when I moved to Tassie, I was like, this is who I am. If you don't like me, this is still who I am. I'm not going to try and fit into this realm. And then, so I did 3 arts and an English. And so the art department let me just stay in this little art room. And I had like a toaster, had some pillows, had a kettle, just made art all day.
That sounds cool. But I guess it gives the other kids a reason to be like, she doesn't come out of the art room.
Yeah, well, they were right.
When I just got to ask because I'm curious. When you say bullied, are you bullied by other females or guys or mixture?
Just both. I had I had a really close friend growing up, and she really struggled with her mental health. She's like no longer with us today, and I think we had a really tumultuous friendship where she would take a lot of her pain out on me. And then when she had to leave school when we were quite young, I was like, I don't know who I am without you, because we had been in the same class from prep till grade 8. And so I was trying to work out who I was from that. And then I think I just never fell in with people after that, and people were just taking their stuff out on me. And I think there were people in my life then that were trying to be my friend, and I was in such a dark place that I just couldn't see that. I couldn't see any worth or any light. And so when I moved to Tassie, it was really like restarting my whole life again. I feel like it didn't really start till I moved to Tassie. And when I meet people now that I went to school with, it's like so different. Yeah. And
maturity, I guess, plays a factor in that. And hopefully the people that were assholes to you have matured more than,
Yeah.
We'd hope so.
You hope so. I mean, yeah.
My son's just starting school at the moment, and we're taking him to school, and it made me realise, like I went to the same school pretty much my whole life, and then it made me realise how hard it would be for those kids that have to just jump from school to school.
Yeah.
Like he's got this anxiety, he's only 5 though, but of going to a school where he doesn't know anyone. But I'm like, that must be so hard for kids that have to do that 5 times in their, primary school life.
Yeah,
or whatever.
100%. Yeah, like Vida moving so much.
Yeah,
that was such an interesting story. Yeah.
Her story was super interesting. But yeah, you realise you're like, fuck, that is really, really traumatic on kids. And I think from what I've learned so much with talking to people in the last year or so doing this, is that people's stress and trauma from childhood can push out into your adult years.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
Really, once people don't realise that until they get to a bit older. We're starting to figure this out now,
Yeah.
Stressful.
Yeah, but I think it can be the other way around. Like, I moved and like fully changed the life around when I moved to Tassie, and that was probably the best thing for me. And I think I wouldn't be doing any of this stuff now if I didn't do that.
Yep.
And then moving from that first school, I moved to Launceston College, which is like in Tassie, you have college. So you get to year 10 and then you go to college, which is 11 and 12. Wow. There's like no uniform. You call your teacher by their first name. Yeah. That's a really good intro if you want to go to uni or just like to refresh kids to be like, be given a bit more independence. And if you want to go to class, that's up to you. If you don't, like those are the consequences. And I think a lot of people really benefit from that.
Yep.
And there's a lot of extra courses that go straight into TAFE stuff as well and trade and kind of things like that.
Yeah, I guess, and that also kind of helps weed out the people that aren't that interested in school, that are just going for the because you have to.
Yeah, for
sure. And then after year 10 or whatever it is, grade, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
They can go work with their family or go get a job, and the kids that want to actually study can continue on.
Yeah. It's a good system, I think. Yeah.
So once you did that, you went to it must have been hard to leave the scholarship behind, but you just weren't happy.
No, I wasn't happy. And like, I think LC had a good arts program as well. And yeah, I was just very, very depressed. Probably year 12 was the first year I actually enjoyed school. And I love learning and stuff, but like, yeah, just like so much dread every day, feeling sick. And like, I had really bad insomnia. I'd be up till like 6 a.m. have like a couple hours, then go to school. It's just like a shell of a person.
Which is that's a lot to take on for a school age.
Yeah, 100%. And I was younger for my year, so I didn't graduate until I was 17.
Yeah, that's a lot. So in hindsight, did you need to be medicated? Were you just in a bad place that you couldn't really get out of? Did you need to talk to someone?
I was medicated really heavily in year 12. I was on a lot of like
too much almost?
Way too much. Like I had a really negative experience with a psychiatrist. He put me on 22 different antidepressants in 1 year.
What?
I was on lithium at 16, like all these crazy
stuff. You need like 3
stuff.
months to sort of see if
so
the
it was literally
works.
like, being on one, flushing out, being on another one, flushing it out. So on so many benzos, Seroquel to sleep, all of this stuff. And it was absolutely like terrible. I don't know what was up and down, but I was still like when I was at uni, I was still on so much medication, doing presentations and stuff. And that's how like my tolerance was so high, my anxiety was so high. So I was talking like, we would be talking like this, but I would just be on so many chemicals. And now I'm like 4 years off anything. Yeah. Those years are really blurs to me.
Yeah. And that is like I've done my dose, but nothing like that with some sort of antidepressant stuff. And then getting off it, I'm like, I just have to learn how to deal with this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Is that the same sort of process that you went through when you start to feel shit? You think I've just got to process this.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Is that how you do it? Tell me, because I don't know. How do you do
it? I was in a really rough toxic relationship, and I just stopped taking my meds, and then just was like, I need to find the core of my problems, because it felt like everything was bad, but I couldn't tell what it was that was bad, because I had this to fix this to numb this to sleep, this to wake up, and I didn't feel anything naturally. And then eventually I quit smoking weed, quit drinking coffee. And I was just like, I just want to feel things for how they are. Yep. And when I feel sadness, I'm like, at least I know it's real.
Yeah. And emotions are natural.
And they're important. They're important to feel things. But I think it feels so much better when I'm actually feeling sad and I understand why. And I know that it will move past, and I know that it's a real chemical reaction in my brain, and it's not like the come down from this medication or having a big night or something like that. So yeah.
I think like people getting medicated for, anxiety, depression is really important.
Yeah.
I think it is a step to get you out of the really deep, dark depths.
Mm-hmm.
But to be on it forever, and everyone's different. I think, just from my experience and people that I know, sometimes people are in a really bad spot.
Yeah.
They get very heavily medicated. It's like you're not talking to them. They're vacant.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're to the point that they are just going through the motions. And I don't know if that's living either,
Yeah.
So I think it's
100%.
important with those things to get on it and then to slowly, when you're comfortable, to wean yourself off it.
Yeah. And like you said, like this is just my experience. Like I think there are lots of people that they are medicated and that saved their life and that's how they
For sure.
go through life. There are people, like mates who smoke weed and it doesn't totally ruin their life and they're just chilling and that's sick. I'm just not one of those people. And
Yeah, everyone's different. I've got some friends that a lot of people have got ADD, but you know they refuse to take their medication.
Yeah.
But they also want to smoke weed all the time. Like, you know, is the medication similar to weed? I don't know.
It's really similar how it
and
reacts.
It just chills you.
Yeah.
Know?
Yeah.
Everyone's different, each to their own. But I did that stuff for a while and I got off it, and I think now I just have to learn to compute those feelings and not stress out.
And I think I really wanted to be able to go anywhere. Like if I just tomorrow, like I want to go to Timbuktu and I don't need to have anything with me that's going to keep me centered. I just need me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know some people that they stress out about their medication so much that I think that keeps them more highly strung.
Yeah, yeah. And it's tricky. Like my dad's medicated for ADHD and he needs that, and that is what keeps him centered. Yep. And he can't go places with that, and that's just him. I'm really lucky that I found this balance, and it takes a lot to stay in that balance, and I have to work really hard for it. But I feel a lot happier than I did when I was on it.
For sure. Yeah. And the medication's always there if you ever need it. You know what I mean? Like you can get, if you feel like you start to get really down, you're like, okay, well, I might need this for a bit to give me a boost, and then I'm back on track.
Yeah.
We're tackling the big issues.
We are.
So medications aside, you mentioned your dad. Is he musical?
Yeah, he's very musical. He's a piano composer.
That's extremely musical.
Yeah. So he's a composer in general. He's kind of like a mad scientist. So he's like a visual artist. He's like built his own laser cutter.
Built his own laser cutter?
Yeah, like web designer, made video games, like he's a software engineer, builds apps, like all these kinds of weird, obscure tech things. He just did this really sick exhibition at Junction, which is a arts festival in Launceston, and he'd rigged up all these fans that were blowing this really big piece of fabric with projections on it, and he'd built his own MIDI controllers that would change the speed of the fan to the music that he composed, so that the fabric would just move.
Like
mad scientist stuff.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah, so that's cool.
How did he go, like going from somewhere with a lot of culture and a lot of different art stuff in Melbourne to going to Launceston?
Yeah, I think he struggled a bit at the start, but he's definitely found he's like such a networker, and so he's always fascinated with what other people are doing, and so he always makes friends wherever he goes. Yeah. Which is really beautiful. And he's so supportive of like my mum and her family, and like they're just really supportive of each other. Yeah. Yeah.
And I can imagine he's supportive of your musical endeavours.
Definitely.
So when you start to write poetry and stuff, is him and your mum the first people you share it with?
Yeah, I definitely share a lot, especially in the start. And like growing up here, like they definitely are the reason that I'm still alive, because I didn't really have many friends, so I would spend so much time with them. And I'm definitely a product of both of them. Like my mum is a social worker, cancer researcher, and so she's very like emotionally minded. They're both creative problem solvers, and the way that kind of comes into me. And I have a younger sister as well, and she's also very like creative and emotional, but also like my dad's super logical and lots of things, and so it's a really nice amalgamation of both of those things. And yeah, they've been so supportive. I'm very, very lucky. Yeah.
And it just goes to show that even when the family they've come from mentally stable places with great backgrounds, sometimes the kids still suffer. And
sure.
At least you were in the right frame of mind to talk to people about it, but some kids just wouldn't talk to
I think that's why I was so lucky that mum was a social worker, because she was like, I get what's going on.
She would have picked up on that.
100%.
But, you know, if she was just someone who worked in retail and wasn't attuned to what was going on, that can slip through the cracks easy, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and because she is so supportive of my dad being an artist, and then she does like this quite like already formulated job, and so then he can be like big ideas thing, and she holds it down for all of us, and like it's just like such an interesting dynamic how they both let each other shine in their ways.
It's really, I think that sort of stuff's really important with partnerships, that because if you've got two people that are overly creative, then who's running
scary
the ship?
time.
Well, it's but that's it's not just in relationships, like as in partnerships with romantic sort of partnerships, but in like partnerships with business or whatever.
100%.
It's important that you've got, otherwise you've got two people pushing it in different directions.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So when you start writing poetry, and you said you got into slam poetry, explain that for people that may not be familiar with the slam poetry.
So I started at 16, and basically it's a competition each month, and you go and you perform like a 2-minute piece, and you're basically just doing poetry. There's no beat. It's just you. And then you get judged from like a crowd audience, and then there's 2 rounds and you can win. But like you don't have to do it competitively. Yeah.
Because it's poetry, making poetry competitive is an interesting concept.
Yeah.
It really is.
Oh, definitely. And because it's so much extra things come into it. It's not just like your writing and your emotions, but then it's like your delivery and your presence and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's almost like battle rap sort of stuff, but you're competing with other people that aren't battling against you, but you're saying your poetry. And
yeah, it's a weird concept. And I think I wasn't looking at it, I don't think it was like a super competitive environment. It was more just like this small community of people that it definitely grew, but people coming together. And I was one of the youngest people doing it. So like my parents, like one of them had to come each month because they were all at pubs and stuff. And so I grew up through that and through my adolescence and processed all of this stuff that was happening from 16 to 20, doing that every month. And all the people doing it, being older than me, pretty much like mentored me through that adolescent time.
Yeah.
And it helped me process a heap of stuff, helped me talk about really vulnerable things in front of people on stage and connect to an audience. And
it's a huge juxtaposition to the girl that would hang out in the art room by herself.
100%.
To going in front of people that are potentially 40, 30, 50 years older than you.
Yeah.
And doing some very heartfelt poetry.
And I was doing that when I was at that school.
Yeah.
And so I would be in this realm and like not really talk to anyone, and then go in the night to these poetry slams and be like, this is how I feel. Yeah.
Which must have been daunting at the start, but I guess it's pretty empowering once you've done it.
Yeah.
You kind of got a little bit hooked, I'm guessing.
Definitely hooked. And I think something naturally comes out because I'm a pretty introverted person in my normal life. Like I only really come out of my shell with my close friends. But on stage, something just really naturally happens, and that extrovert and the things that I guess like bottle up in my day-to-day always just come out in that space. And I think that's why it's been so healthy finding hip-hop and finding like performing, because it really is such an outlet for those two sides of me. So I can still be introverted but actually express all this stuff that is it's ruminating.
So when you write poetry for that, is there a structure that it
Not
doesn't
really.
have to rhyme? It does rhyme. No. Sometimes there's no syllabolic breakdown. It's just saying something from the heart in a passionate way.
It's free flowing. It definitely has like a rhythm, but it doesn't necessarily rhyme. And I think that's what taught me that the way you say something and the tone you use and the inflection you give affects the rhyming and affects the actual sound of something. And I think taking that into hip hop, where obviously there's a lot more rhyming, there's a lot more schemes, but actually the tone of how you're saying something affects the whole presence of you, which is really cool. And I think because I'm such a visual and creative person, I think with a really synesthetic, think about the different senses. So when I write a song, I think about the colors, or if it was a room, what would the room look like, or what's the weather like in this song? What time of the day would you does this song live in? And so, I think that comes from poetry, because when you're doing that, there is no beat. It's just you. It's just how you're saying that thing. And you could say it 5 different ways and have a whole different vibe from it. And it might just not hit if you don't say it with this energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a lot for spoken word, isn't it?
Yeah,
lot
it's an
to think.
interesting one.
Yeah. 'Cause some people would just see that at the sort of face value and be like, people are just saying poetry, but there's a lot that goes into just how you deliver it, how you write it, how you think about it.
Yeah.
Extremely interesting.
Yeah, it was a cool intro, and I think a lot of people I've spoken to have started with poetry before getting into hip hop, which is cool.
So from a musical standpoint then, you were interested in hip hop, but you weren't making it at that stage.
Yeah, no, I was writing like songs but more singing, and then I started doing Music Madness, which was a monthly Launceston gig that Mr. Lucky put on, and that was pretty much all hip hop, but there were some acoustic sets, and I was starting to do them, do a bit of like kind of dark pop, some hip hop stuff, some even spoken word, some singing, just real like mishmash of stuff. And I was getting those gigs monthly. It was a very like really wild, open kind of space. And I challenged myself to write a new set list each month.
Okay.
And so I'd be writing like new songs through the month and then go and practice them, like deliver them, and then go back and write a whole new set each month.
When you say a whole new set, you mean just new songs, not in a different set list as in the order. You mean just new...
different songs. Yeah.
Throw the other ones away.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I think it made me like better in a short amount of time because I was just like experimenting with heaps of stuff. It was a perfect opportunity because no one really knew me. I was in this like crowd of people who everyone was really open-minded, like fun-loving.
Is it a youth program thing or it's just a program?
No, it was just a gig. So I was 18 by this time.
Okay, yep.
I think a year out of uni maybe. I'd only done 1 year of uni and then dropped out because of my mental health. And
so you still couldn't get that kind of balance right of
this was still
overly medicated.
So medicated. I did the first year and I really struggled. I was doing like well with marks, but just like I would walk up, it was on the top floor, and it was on the fourth floor. On the third floor, I'd go to the toilet, have panic attack, go to the fourth floor, do uni.
From a social perspective?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think the medication was just heightening everything. My mental health, I wasn't sleeping well. I was still like smoking a lot of weed, just like in a really messy place. And I remember in the second year, I tried to do the first semester and I ended up getting hospitalised, and my teachers came in and let me present my like last assignments to them in hospital because they were absolute legends. But yeah, it was just like hectic. Yeah. So yeah.
I guess in hindsight, it's hard for them to get a read on you medically when you are still self-medicating with the weed and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
for sure.
But I guess it sounds like they were also over-medicating you as well.
Yeah, it was a whole balance of all these things, or very much imbalance. And I think I had a doctor that wouldn't teach me any strategies. He would just medicate me. And so I think that's what I really needed, was just to like coping mechanisms. Yes, that.
Yeah, no, it is. I've heard, look, people I know that have gone through similar stuff, when they go to wean off the medication, they're like, the doctors are telling me how to deal with these things. And I think, breathing is one that you think of as pretty simple, but learning how to breathe and learning how to, man, people that meditate and people are like, I'm just going to be getting to the moment and that stuff. I used to think that was crazy. Now I get it. Like, I totally understand.
It was something I was thinking about when I was stopping smoking like ciggies, is that when you smoke, you go outside, you sit outside, and then you take a moment, you roll a ciggy, and then you take all these deep breaths slowly, and you're taking a minute for yourself. And I was like, I just need to do this. Yeah. Obviously nicotine, all these things help, but like that I'm actually not taking any time in the day for myself to go and sit and just be and breathe.
Totally.
Yeah, which is what we all do when we're smoking. Yeah.
My partner, she was a big smoker, and she also gets a bit socially awkward. She'd probably kill me. She probably won't listen to this anyway. But she smoked for years and years and years, and I think that smoking thing is a device where you can go, I'm not really having a great time here, feeling a bit social.
Yeah.
I'm going for a ciggy. Go outside
for sure.
and sit there and just zen out for a minute. And that's something now with vaping, because people are just...
Yeah.
They're not getting that kind of zen moment that they were getting when they would roll a cigarette and just...
That's why I always bring a paper and pen everywhere I go. Like go to happy hour, go to a bar, go to a party, like always just something. So if I'm really anxious, I can just go out, draw, be antisocial, and then it's a conversation starter. Or
Yeah, but you know what? I think in Melbourne though, if someone's just sitting there reading their book or drawing, some people will talk to you, but I will talk to anybody, but I'm usually respectful. That person's just having their own moment.
Yeah, 100%.
Let them do their thing. If they want to have 2 pints, not talk to anyone and read a book, let them fucking do it.
Yeah, they're living. Yeah.
Well, that's their way that they chill. Everyone chills in different ways.
So true. Yeah.
That's one thing I've found moving down here a bit further out of the chaos. Some of my friends that have done a similar thing, we used to go to the pub every day and just, you'd catch up with friends after work, whatever.
Yeah.
Some people can't deal with not having that. You know, like everyone has their own ways that they deal with their stress and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
You know? And human interaction is really important for some people.
Yeah.
Some people don't want it. They just want to sit there and read their book by themselves. Everyone's totally different.
Yeah. No, for sure.
And for you, I guess it's just drawing and having your own moments when you can remove yourself from the stress.
Yeah, and I think like I'm when I feel lost, I always find myself with my friends, and so I think the social stuff is super important. But I think having time to yourself is also really important to like recalibrate and actually be like have the retrospect and. Yeah.
So on this timeline that we're at when you're about 19, say a year out of college because you finished so young.
Yeah.
And you mentioned friends then.
Yeah.
Had you got to a point where you could open yourself up to friends now because you were saying you were very much alone, I'm not going to say a loner, but you did your own thing in the earlier years. By this stage when you're 19 and stuff, you started opening up to groups of friends and you were being social again?
Yeah, I think I made friends when I moved to that college in year 12 and kind of had friends in Launceston. I moved when I was 20. And so those like last kind of 3 years living there, I'd had friends. And it was sweet. It was kind of a group of friends that we would party a lot and not see each other much when we weren't partying, which, worked at the time. But I think I feel really lucky where I'm at now is have mates that we all, cook dinner or go out to the bush or do stuff like that where we're not always just seeing each other to get cooked.
Do you know what though? I honestly think that just seeing your mates and getting wasted at that time is important.
Oh, 100%. And it's like fond memories.
Yeah.
Totally
and
fond memories.
You know what happens to people that don't do that when they're 19,
that's
20,
very true.
21?
Yeah.
They often have midlife crises.
Yeah. and I think I only say this because one of the tricky things about Launceston and smaller towns is that a lot of people don't grow out of that. And because, as we were saying, there's not much to do. Like we don't have a heap of stuff. So people fall into those patterns and I've still got people that I know that are still in those zones and they haven't stopped since they, left college.
And party drugs and recreational drugs become a pretty stable thing, I'd imagine, in the scene.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's so disheartening. It's like what a lot of the bars that I did at the start of this about is watching people you grew up with still stuck in that and they lose themselves, they lose their values and you just watch them like disappear into this other person. And I think it really, especially in small towns, it really takes people for a ride. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely does. People think about sort of drug culture as being something that happens in the city, and it definitely does. It happens everywhere.
Yeah.
But those smaller towns with not a whole lot going on, it's easy for people to go down that route for escapism and just for something to do.
Yeah, I think we have some of the highest, when they tested like, I don't know, it was the water or the sewage or something, but we have got the highest like rates for like ketamine and MDMA and pretty high. I think we were the second highest for meth. So yeah, it's definitely well in our communities,
Yeah, and not to keep saying it, but when there's not a lot for people to do, you can understand that they kind of get caught up in that. But that's a bigger problem. But you got out of it. You got out of there. You started to write. So have you started writing hip hop music yet?
Yeah. But I wasn't really sharing it as much. Okay. Yeah. I was just kind of, so I moved to Hobart 2020, 2 weeks before COVID. Didn't know COVID would hit, didn't drive, couldn't see my family because the bus that goes from Lonnie to Hobart just got shut down. So I was like, I'm in Hobart now.
Do you have a car?
No, I couldn't. I didn't have my license. Yeah.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I was like, I'm in Hobart. I was living in a share house with people who didn't really know. And that's when I just was like, because we had a very minimal ISO compared to you guys. Yeah. But I, just wrote every day, drew, listened to hip hop, and just like, that was my safe space. I'd just gotten out of a abusive relationship with someone in the scene, and he was kind of stalking me at the time and was like, you're never going to be welcome here. And so I think I felt really isolated in this space, but it was also my safety of like.
So when you said never going to be welcome here, it means in that area?
Like, I will come to any gig you do and ruin it and like all those kinds of things.
Which is obviously horrible, but I'd imagine in Tassie it's a really small scene. So
such a small scene. Yeah.
Sort of stuff?
Yeah. And I think that's why I know I love this, because I've had so many hurdles of people or just things that have pushed me out and being like, you can't be here. You can't do this. Like when I first started doing gigs, I was like one of 3 women getting groped, getting harassed, but I kept coming back because I love the music and I love the scene. Yeah, in Tassie.
Okay.
And that's why I started running gigs, to create spaces that women could just enjoy the music and be there and not be like, who are you here to, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which it's cool that you took that mindset, but it also sucks that it takes something like that to push you to the point of creating a safe space for people.
Yeah.
And I'd imagine in Tassie there's not a huge scene, so if there are people you don't get along with, you're going to see them.
100%.
It's a small space.
Yeah, it's a small space. I think it's definitely gotten a lot better over the last few years. But it's tricky. Yeah.
Were venues, so when you were pitched, so you're doing this in Hobart now, the venues, the gigs?
Yeah, now. Yeah.
Now. But so, and you'd pitch to venues, hey, I want to run this hip-hop event, which already for some venues are like, ooh, hip-hop, I don't know.
Yeah.
And you're like, nah, but it's a safe place and people aren't going to trash the toilets.
It's an interesting one. So I got asked for the Republic Bar, I got asked if I wanted to do a Grace Chia and Supports, like a headline gig. Yeah. And this is like 2020, and I felt that was too early in my career to put a headline gig on. And I think I'm pretty hard on myself. I really want to feel like I earn the spots that I take. Yep. And so I was like, my mates do hip hop. Let's just run a hip hop gig. I want to put my mates on. I think at the time there wasn't a lot of gigs for that underground scene, and we've got a lot of really underrated, amazing rappers in Tassie. Yep. And so we just ran that first one, which was awesome. And then we got asked to do another one like a little while later. Someone else, both of these gigs were because someone pulled out and they wanted us to just put something on last minute. Yep. And that's why it got called pop-up hip-hop, because it was just like we just put a pop-up gig on.
Like, get that Grace chick, she can put a event on out of nowhere.
Pretty much. And then, I've been running those with my ex for like 3 or 4 years. And then we've run like open mics for the last year monthly.
So you're still working together?
Not anymore. Yeah. Yeah, I just have pulled out of that. But because as we were saying, there's not a lot of stuff for the culture. And I think it felt more important to me to continue something for the culture there than whatever was going on with us.
But you can't put your own happiness and mental health aside if that's
getting well, now I am.
Well,
Yeah, well, it only took a year.
Well, it's noble of you to want to soldier on to do it for the culture, but you can't put your own.
Yeah, and he's still going to run them, so and I'm going to just put on different gigs and stuff. But I've been able to help a lot of touring artists with their gigs. So put on the Kogz gig, Omac, Manaz Ill, and just did Downsyde. And so that's been a great experience of liaison with a lot of bigger artists, and a lot of artists don't tour to Tassie now. So it's awesome every time someone comes, and it's an honour to put those gigs on for them and create like spaces that, like, as I said, when I was first attending, it was like 3 women, and now you go and there's like 50% women, 50% men, everyone just vibing. And if you're the weird guy, you're the odd one out. Yeah. Which is sick.
And surely not just at those gigs, but at any gigs, people can't be weirdos anymore, you know? Like, times have
Yeah.
changed.
Yeah. You'd like to think. Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
So we're on your timeline, 2020, you're living in Hobart, COVID's happening,
Yeah.
you're writing music,
Yeah.
you're sort of channeling your poetry and singing and songwriting more into lyrics and more hip-hop-ish inspired stuff.
Yeah, I'd say it was very like hip hop in that space. I think I went like out of the singing and then was just in hip hop, and then only recently I've brought singing back into that, and now it's like a blend.
Yep.
Yeah.
So who were your inspirations when you started writing, going from the singing into hip-hop?
I listened to a lot of Hell and Earth and MC Light. I listened to a lot of Layla, a lot of UK artists as well, Concept of Thought, Louse the Cat, Atmosphere, Evidence, like a whole range of stuff. I really like people that are centered in lyricism, and I think that takes you to lots of different subgenres of hip hop. But I like how people say things, and I think I found Hell and Earth and finding Layla around that time, and then like a year later finding Villy was like, whoa, these people are insane. And like, I think I hadn't heard myself in any lyrics until I listened to them. And just hearing people, you know, speak in their accent, so staunch but so clever, just hooked me so hard.
Yeah. And Villy also, she's rapping on beats that she's making as well.
So cool, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, master of many.
Yeah, that's got to be inspirational also.
100%, yeah.
So
yeah.
when you were writing originally, are you searching for beats from people, or are you dabbling with production yourself in this 2020 sort of period?
No, I was writing on YouTube beats most of that time. Right. Yeah.
Like sounds like beats, those sort of things when people...
Yeah, I go like, I guess sounds like beats, more just like around boom bap. Yeah.
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 And at that time, since then, we've had a fair influx of Tassie hip-hop people making it to Melbourne.
Yeah.
But then there was a bit of a different scene. There was still... So Greels was still there.
Mm-hmm. Well, Greels was in prison at that time.
At that time.
Yeah.
But he's a cornerstone of sort of that Hobart scene.
For sure. Yeah, the whole Tassie scene, yeah.
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 And Lockie Hamill was still there?
Yeah, so Lockie and I grew up in Launceston, and he did poetry slams with me when we were kids.
Why didn't you tell me this before?
I forgot. I always forget. Like I think I was like 17, he was like 16, and we were just at the poetry slams.
Wow.
So good.
He's going to come in a couple of weeks.
Awesome. Yeah. He will have a wealth of knowledge to share. Yeah. He's so hardworking.
Yeah, it's impressive because he will compose the beat, record it, master it, mix it, shoot a video, probably rap on it. I don't know if he does the artwork, but I presume he fucking does too.
Yeah, he is, so talented. Yeah.
Just like a drive to just get it done.
Yeah, and he's so, like, I think he makes anyone feel comfortable in the booth, so open-minded, so hardworking, all the things that feel like they're too tricky. He's like, we can do that. That's fine. Let's do that.
That's the right mindset, isn't it?
It's so good for a creative. That's everything, you know, because you always have ideas, be like, it's at the end of the session, I don't know. And he just makes everything feel easy and excited. Like he's excited for you to do cool things.
Yeah. He seems like just a good dude to be around.
Yeah. Yeah, he's wicked.
Did you ever beat him in any slam poetry jams?
A couple of times.
Did you? So they actually go, and this person is the winner.
Yeah, he definitely won them too. Yeah.
Right. So his poetry's...
Well, he was mainly doing like his raps, but just a cappella. Yeah, because he's been rapping for so long, and since he was so young.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like battling at like 16.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So then Greels gets out. Does the scene sort of... What happens then?
Yeah, Greels got out, and then he was touring with Denny. So he kind of like got out, and I think he did a gig or so in Tassie, and then he was kind of doing more national stuff. And then when he came back, then they did like the THC, a few Raw shows. They did the THC gig here in 2022 at Laundry, which was like a little showcase and stuff. And so then that was pumping for a bit. The Tassie Takeover stuff was pumping, and I think Dunna's doing the rapper tag and all that kind of stuff was really pushing a lot of stuff happening in Tassie.
He did that rapper tag when he was playing guitar. I remember that was like, it was like a point, and they were all running through the house and everything. Yeah, that was sick.
That's all at Lockie's house, and you'll notice like probably like 30% of the videos in THC are like filmed at Lockie's house, but they've just set it up in all these different ways.
Yeah, that was really cool because when that rapper tag thing was happening, it was just so different. And hearing the guitar and seeing the guitar, I remember messaging Dundee like, "Man, that's really cool. Like it's something totally different to what we had heard previously to that."
Yeah, and great message. Yeah, it's like epic message in that song. Yeah.
Man, he was supposed to come in here last week before his gig, and then his flight got delayed.
Oh no!
But he also didn't allow enough time. Like some people don't realise how far away.
Yeah. It's a distance. Yeah.
T was going to bring him out here, and T's like, "I'm picking him up at the airport at 5, and we'll be out to see you at about 6:30." I'm like, "Man, that's a Friday night." And then his flight gets delayed by 2 hours, and then the whole thing's out.
Yeah,
but hopefully next time he's in town.
Yeah, he would also have some crazy stories.
Yeah,
because he battle and everything.
Well, when you were talking about your first gigs at the Republic, his family, that was the pub.
Yeah.
Small world in Tassie.
Yeah, it's so small. That's why, like, them doing like Grilly and Dunners doing the battle there was so iconic.
Yeah, man. People talk about the whole rap, like the Aussie rap battle thing, and it's always like, oh, Cursor and fucking 360, but people forget that Greeley and Dundee were the battle guys for a long time.
Crazy, like, fully going all around the world as well. Yeah, amazing.
And that just sort of, people seem to just go, oh, Cursor and 360, they did this battle once, and that was it. People, that's all like a whole generation
everything.
talks. Yeah, and it's like, go back and watch the videos of all that, because I'm pretty sure Dundee battles 360, and I think Greeley battles, like they all would, it was all happening.
Yeah.
And it must have been cool, I guess, if you're into that sort of stuff, to see Tassie on the map then.
For sure. Yeah. I think, I mean, like we had Gargoyle and Billy Bunks and people like
they moved over
from
here.
Tassie, but they moved over here. So it's cool that people like who are so prolific in the scene like have stayed there. Yeah.
Wombat's another one, man.
Wombat will never move. Yeah, he's like ride or die Glenorchy. Yeah, which is sick for Tassie, you know. He's one of the biggest.
Week.
Oh, awesome!
Not here, but sorry, not here, not on the show. But he's going to be at the 50-50 gig.
Yeah. Well, he's like one of the biggest rappers in Australia, and he's like, I'm living in Tassie, and this is what I love. And I feel the same. Like, I think I'd love to play more shows here, and hopefully we'll be doing that a lot more next year. But I definitely want to stay based in Tassie because there's something really special there, and I think it grounds me being around the people there. Being able to just go to the bush and stuff. Yeah.
It's cool, though, that you can stay there and do that because I feel like for a point you sort of had to move to the mainland to do your
100%, yeah. But, like, if we all just do that, that's not going to change. If we all just keep subscribing to that,
Yeah, well, someone's got to put their foot down and go, no, we're staying.
Yeah, and it's not good for our culture in Tassie because we build all these artists that are amazing and then when they move, then there's not as much live music here. And I think we really struggle for venues, especially for hip hop in Tassie. There's a few venues that will put it on, but
it's the same here, to be honest. Like,
fully.
Here, it's just a numbers game, so there's way more venues. So there's way more people that are not way more. There's more people that are interested in putting on hip hop gigs. But to be honest, you could speak to a lot of venues, and you just mention the word hip hop, and they'll just be like,
the tagging, man.
They
as soon as they hear it, they're like, nope. You know.
Yeah.
But it's the culture. It's such a hard one.
Yeah, I know. It is.
I've been like mid-set headlining a gig and they've cut me off and been like, no, it's over. The bathrooms have gotten thrashed. You need to like all leave. And it's like, fuck. Like, it's such a tricky one.
Yeah, I know. It is, man. I feel for T. He's trying to put on shows at different places and he's like, man, they just paint you with the same brush.
Yeah,
And the Breaking Bread people, they seem to be a pretty well-behaved crowd that don't fuck around
Yeah,
too
they're
much.
legends.
But as soon as you mention the word hip-hop, it just like not be
And that's why like the Briz was sick because the bathrooms were all tagged. They didn't care and you could have a sick hip-hop gig, but then that's shut down. We had Simple Cider, same vibe, that got shut down. So, yeah.
And I think even now, Republic is owned by a bigger pub group.
Yeah.
Which is probably not that down with doing gigs. I'm not sure.
They've really supported us to do, so they were the people who supported us to do pop-up hip-hop for like 3 years there. And they just put on Downsyde as well.
Yep.
We have to put stuff up at the start of the night and say something like, if you want to support the culture, please don't tag this venue. It directly affects the artist that you're here to see. Yeah. And that's generally worked, you know. Yeah. Just go down the road.
So let's get onto your timeline, Hobart, writing hip hop, putting on gigs. You're now going from a shy slam poetry sometimes person to a performing, recording artist. Are you? That's an interesting one. Are you recording? You are.
Yeah, recording. I was recording at home with my ex, and he would record me, and I put out an album from like home studio and stuff. And it wasn't until 2023, I think the start of 2023, that I released like the first kind of few tracks that I'd recorded with Lockie, and like kind of in that studio space. Yeah.
And he's a big part of the scene there. I'm guessing anyone who wants to record that he's feeling, he's like, yep, get it done.
Yeah. He recorded so many people in that studio, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And I released 2023 was a real hectic year. I released an album called Marsapollo, which was a concept album. So it was about a fictional character born in a state of mind, sent to the earth to unplug the humans from the Matrix. Wow. But it was like a boom bap hip hop album. And I went to Big Sound for the first year just as a delegate, but I was sent by Music Taz, which was amazing.
Was that in Queensland?
Yeah, it's in Brisbane, so it's a big music conference. I was there at the same time performing for Edge Radio. So there was a gig they do each year called Sounds Like Community Radio, which each state sends someone to perform for their radio, representing their state, and it's all live broadcasted on 4ZZZ. So I did that, and then I got nominated for Taz Best Live Act for the National Live Music Awards. So it was just like a crazy time of the year.
How long had you been performing live for before you got that nomination? Because I'm guessing only a couple of years.
Yeah, like 2021 I did 2020 I did Falls, like Homebrew Stage, Party in the Paddock, like Hey Bale Stage or something like that. And then 2021 I was just doing like local gigs. I supported Allday and performed at a few like arts music festivals, and then pretty steady 2022, and then 2023 it just went crazy, and then 2024 was just like hectic. I started performing with Flora, which is an amazing 8-piece all-female non-binary band, and they've all learnt the songs that I've written to be performed with this band.
How did that come about? That's pretty awesome.
So they're already a band called Flora, and I'd supported them for a couple gigs, and then Maggie, who's the drummer, kind of runs the band. She was like, I love what you're doing, let's collab. And so we do this like collab set where they play all these songs that I've written, but like live with like an 8-piece band. And we headlined MONA FOMA. We played Panama, which has like always been a goal of mine to play at Panama. It was so beautiful.
And you're the solo vocalist with this whole band.
So I'm the lead vocalist, and then there's 3 backup singers.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, that would be daunting. With
So I'm like rapping, and then there's like 3 amazing vocalists that are like singing harmonies with me, and different vocal parts like behind the rapping.
Yep.
And then there's synth, keys, guitar, bass, drums, sometimes trumpet. Crazy.
Yeah, that's
so
nice.
Fun. And it was like first time making music with women in the room. Yeah.
And so you guys they're making the instrumentals, or are they recreating instrumentals that you had?
Yeah, recreating. Yep. We wrote a song about Palestine, which we're releasing at the start of next year as well. So we wrote that from scratch altogether, but all the other ones are based on either demos or songs that I've already released. Yeah.
It must be cool to hear that stuff come to life from a live band.
So sick. It's really exciting. And like I'd made a song with Viliani before, and I'd made a song with my little sister, but I hadn't met Vili until like maybe a year or 2 after we made that song. It was just all over the internet.
Wow.
And so being in a room, because I'm always the only woman in the room in a hip hop gig, until like Clara was doing stuff and Temple Cad and a few people who joined in, but I was so used to that, and like that was just such a crazy, awesome experience of being with all these women and doing all this stuff. That was, I think, helped me just express myself, come out of my comfort zone more. When I started going to gigs, I felt like my femininity was like an opening for people to interject themselves into my life, or like people would see that as not a weakness but as like a vulnerability. And so I would just try to be as like present as masculine as possible, just one of the boys to feel safe.
That's not necessary in hindsight, is it?
No, but like at the time, like
That was your coping mechanism sort of thing.
yeah. And I think like if you went to a gig in a skirt back then, it was just like, let's all talk to this chick and like make her feel hell uncomfortable and blah, blah, blah. And so I just didn't want that attention.
So the baggy pants.
The baggy pants, man. I played a gig in Launceston. I was supported Seth Sentry a couple of weeks ago, and I hadn't played in Launceston in ages, and I was wearing baggy pants, baggy t-shirt, just because that was what was comfortable. And some guy came up to me. He was at the bar, and he's like, "Hey, what's your name?" And I was like, "Oh." And then this other guy came up, and he's like, "This is the little lass who was rapping on stage."
Little lass.
I was like, "Yep." And then he came up and he pinched my shirt, and he's like, "What's this? A chick wearing material?" I was like, that's Launceston, or it's just like that's not the norm, and it's an in for people to just get in there. Yeah.
Was it cool supporting Seth Sentry? Was that the
So
tour?
cool,
Was
yeah.
that the tour he did with Pez?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
He was so nice as well. Had because it was the that night I played in Launceston, and then I drove at like midnight back to Hobart, and then I flew out to Melbourne the next day, and then it was Jam Baxter where I saw you, and then the next day was the Breaking Bread battles. So he was giving me advice for that, which was really nice, and yeah, it was really sick.
Yeah. Seth's originally from down this way. Before.
Yeah.
He's got a song which is all about growing up on the peninsula. Run, you should check it out.
Yeah, that's sick.
Yeah.
I really loved the song he opened with, and that he had a whole range of different styles of music, but the energy carried the whole way through. And like pretty much no artist, especially hip hop artists, will tour in Launceston. So when they do, it just goes off. Like the encore was like intimidating. People were like, one more song, but they were like stamping their feet, and the whole room was just like, which is awesome. But like, yeah, if you want to tour, come to Lonnie. People are hungry.
When those guys did their tour, do they do a few tracks together, I'm presuming?
Yeah.
Or is it like a Pez set, then it's a Seth Sentry set?
Yeah, it was a Pez set and then Seth Sentry, but Pez got up for a few of the Seth Sentry songs. Yeah.
Yeah, and in your shortish career, you've supported some big names in Aussie hip hop.
Yeah, I've been really, really lucky. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But I'm guessing when it's a small scene in Launceston, there's only a handful of people to put their hand up for.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much all the supports I've done have been in Hobart. I've supported Drapht in Launceston. But yeah, most of the other ones have been in Hobart. Yeah.
But, things are happening there, hopefully.
Things are happening for sure. Yeah, at the end of the year, I'm playing my first international show in New Zealand.
Wow.
Which would be crazy.
Which city?
I'm playing near Nelson, so at the top of the South Island for Twisted Frequency.
Oh, yeah, I did see that on your
Yeah,
Insta.
so they've got like a whole hip hop stage, which would be
and that's
so
like
sick.
New Year's Eve?
Yeah,
cool.
it'll be New Year's Day. So it'll be like kicking off the year, first day of the year.
Yeah, then you could fly over here and do New Year's Day again. No, you can't.
crazy.
The time zone's not good.
Except
No,
I'll
but
be like,
That's cool to do your first international gig, though.
yeah, so exciting. Yeah.
You can be an international touring artist.
With that, got that one under the belt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what else is coming up in Melbourne? So you're also releasing another. So you did a film clip last week, the week before. Keeping in mind this is next week.
Yes.
So you've got a clip and a single coming out every month.
Yes. Yeah. This year I set a challenge to release a single every month with a music video. And there's a couple of months I did a couple extra, like an extra one. And I just wanted, I like challenging myself. It was good writing exercise, good to just improve as I go, not overthink things too much and keep active and grow the catalogue. I think the last year I'd sat on the Marsapollo album and was having all these issues getting mixed for like 2 years. And so I'd had all this unreleased music that just wasn't coming out. And I was like, no more. I want to release it. And so that's been a great exercise. I'm going to kick off next year, release an album. It's like 13 tracks at the moment. And then I'd like to release another project around July.
So you're setting lofty expectations for yourself, putting out a song and a clip every month.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you've successfully done that.
Yeah, I said it live on radio and then I went home and I was like, now I've got to do that.
Do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was good because it was, great challenge for myself and made me a better songwriter. I was able to experiment with lots of different styles because I think when you're doing a body of work, it's got to flow and make sense unless you're doing a mixtape. Yeah. But doing the singles, I was doing like, a heap of different genres, trying some more R&B. And then like the one last month was with Grills and Mishap. And that was like heavy boom bap. And it's just been really fun, like just experimenting and going where my heart takes me and like, finding something that just naturally works and being like, I'm not going to overthink it. That's going to be the next month. I'm going to do it.
So are you working months in advance? Obviously, you're working at least 1 month in advance, but are you working, are you like, okay, I've got these 3 ideas for the song. That's June, July, and August.
Yeah, some of them have been really tight. Like some of them, the videos like done like the week before or like a few days before it comes out. I think I started the year with 3 of the tracks done and like mastered. No videos though. And the one that's coming out in a couple of weeks or maybe it's coming out this week. I can't tell where in the time zone we are. But I've got the December one already mastered as well. So I just need to do a clip with that.
December will be next week.
Oh my God. That's crazy.
Well, next week when this comes out.
Yeah.
Close enough.
I'll still be freaking out about that though.
But it is interesting because I put similar sort of like pressure on myself. I'm like, I'm going to do 2 episodes a week. But sometimes with things like that, it's beyond your control. Do you know what I mean? Like with these sort of expectations we set for ourselves, they're great, but also it's not good if we get down about that and it becomes too much of a stress, you know?
Yeah, I remember I was talking to Helen Earth about it and she's like, are you okay with that though? Is that too much? And I think I'm a manic person, like I'm a manic creative. I've learnt to harness that mania as like a good channel. And so like at this time of like, making all these singles through the year, I've also written a 13-track album and only 2 of the singles this year will be on that album. Yeah. And so like I'm always creating.
And that helps that process, I guess.
Yeah.
Because if you sat there in a room and thought, I've got to write an album, it's got to be cohesive, you might get writer's block, you might get stuck.
Yeah, and I didn't know an album would come at all.
There you go.
Yeah, it was just like, I'm going to make, I think I wrote 3 singles and I thought they would be part of this year. And then I was like, these work together as a project. And then I was like, maybe I'll do an EP. And then the EP grew. And then a week later it was like, this is definitely an album now. And
that'll come out next year?
That'll come out next year, I'm hoping March. And that's very narrative driven. It's really about like, I've had a really tough year with heartbreak and with just coming in my own space, and I've been living alone all year and going through a bunch of stuff. And so I've been processing that through the album. But I really want to start the year, shed that and just get back to like writing music that makes me like happy or just like, feel that power and get in. So that July will be more like boom bap. But the album is a mix of boom bap, neo soul, a bit of R&B. There'll be a spoken word track. It's a whole mix of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, from getting to know you in the last hour or so, it seems like you deal with things by writing. So
yeah,
it's not
definitely.
Surprising that a project has come out of it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's what one of my friends said when all this was going down. He was like, at least you're going to write music. And I was like,
true.
Hey, you were right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
So on this new album, is there features? Is it going to be just you?
There's going to be one feature, Maisie June. She's from the UK. She's had a similar experience to me, and that's why the song kind of naturally flowed out. The project I'm doing in July is going to be more feature-based, but because this one's so personal, it just didn't really make sense to ask people to write about stuff that was really personal and being like, unless we'd already had a chat and be like, oh, you get it, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But as I did at the start of this, Milo Stone's going to feature on that from the UK as well, and he's awesome. And so, I'm really keen on doing some more features through the year. And like I said, I just kind of want to shed this. I think it's a beautiful project, but I want to shed it in order to be able to make music in that next phase. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when you perform live, how do you keep all these different ideas and stuff in your head. Do you know what I mean? Like
the different vibes?
The different vibes, but also I just can't understand how people can hold all that sort of lyricism in their head. But you're also singing as well, man, which I can't even comprehend.
I practice a lot.
And that's the key?
I think... Yeah, I guess I practice a lot. I think a good tip is to practice over lots of different beats. So then you're always ready for like whatever vibe's coming up. I like to make a different set list by switching up the tracks I've got.
So you're still doing that from the slam poetry days?
Yeah, like they're all like songs I've written, but because I play a lot of different mixed genre nights, so I might play like a strict like, boom bap gig, and then I just played a gig at like a hardcore heavy band on the weekend, and then I played a gig on that same night at like a pop gig, and so just did like grime and garage songs, and so like it's fun to, and then like sometimes I'll do gigs where everyone's sitting down and it's really quiet and intimate, so it's fun to try and always be practicing different vibes, always keep those different things like exercise those different muscles, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, that must be so hard to try to jump from different styles of performance when you may not be in that headspace. You've got to go do like a raucous gig, then you've got to do a sit-down one.
Yeah, I try and think about like these are all sides of me and these are my opportunities to express those sides. Mm-hmm. And instead of like, oh, I've got to do this, it's like I get to do this. And yeah. Yeah.
To look at the positive, like this is my excuse to exercise this part of me at this point.
Yeah, like when in my life am I going to have an opportunity like this? Like last weekend I played a solo set for this like heavy band called The Threats, and then I left, played a gig in the middle of a dance floor on a podium and did like grime, garage, songs. I just played 3 songs in the middle of this dance floor. It was crazy. And then went back to the Threats gig and played a song with them, with their band. And it was like heavy hardcore. And I was like rapping like Rage Against the Machine. And I was like, what is this life? When am I going to have experiences like this? I've got to take them. Yep. And look at it like I get to do this instead of I have to do this.
Yeah. And I think that's important for any young artist.
Yeah.
Take the opportunity.
Yeah, definitely.
When the gigs are offered, do them, and because they may not last forever. And those people that decline stuff, likely the people that ask you may not ask you again.
Yeah,
you might only get one chance of doing that. And you just say yes to everything and worry about it later.
Yeah. And I think that's how I built because when before music I was really just doing photography. That was my main business. I was doing that in Launceston, and I said yes to everything at the start, and then I built a clientele from that. The reason I got asked to do Allday and to do the first pop-up hip-hop gig was because I played a violence against women fundraiser at the uni bar, and I just said yes because that's important to me. And then the right person was there and they were like, do you want to do this? Do you want to do this? So I think, putting your hand up and saying yes is super important.
Definitely.
And supporting the community that you care about and are involved with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one door opens another all the time. Like if you don't, it's like when people say in business, like always go to the meeting, even if you don't really want to follow up with whatever the meeting's about. You can meet that person might end up working somewhere else. And that's true with venues and gigs. If you just say no to the gig, that person that asked you, they might end up being a booker for who knows.
100%. Yeah.
And they want to work with people that say yes and that are happy to come to the table.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the great things about Tassie is because we are really small, our genres cross over so much. And so you might meet someone who, the doof crew come to the hip hop gigs, that come to the like punk gigs, and it's all kind of same crew. And so when you make friends or when you do a gig for them or when you put on a gig for them or just attend, you're going to meet like all these other people. And I think that's why I'm really lucky to be making music there, is because I've played so many different genre nights and I'm always meeting a new audience and new artists to collaborate with. And I ran this fundraiser earlier this year. Like I was saying, Simple Cider was this venue that got shut down. And I put on a 10.5-hour fundraiser gig of live music. It was live music, life drawing and chess. because they were
Chess.
all those like social chess was all things that they did at their venue.
Okay.
And because I'd made all these connections through doing all these different genres, I was able to put on like a full mixed genre and 10.5 hours of music, and people also applied to play. And we also had a live art auction and all this stuff. And it's all like community building, because we are a small community, but we definitely come together really hard.
For sure.
Which is awesome.
And when people say stuff to you, they're like, oh, why are you doing all this? You're like, because someone's got to do it.
Yeah. And I think that's such a motto for starting these gigs, and what I'm doing now and the Culture of Queens gigs is like, I want to build the spaces that I needed when I was younger, because there are plenty of women that have come before me that have made it easier for what I do now, and I want to make it easier for the people after me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds really cheesy, but people say you can't be what you can't see. So when you see
100%.
somebody doing something, you're like, I can do that too.
Yeah.
And that helps with creative shit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think like if I saw like a woman of color on stage talking about like social political things, like my younger age, I'd be like, that is amazing. I want to be in. I want to do that. And so I'm hoping that inspires other women to get up and do the same thing.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think it would. We've talked a lot about the Tassie gigs, but you also are here in Melbourne a bit.
Yeah.
Because there's a cool scene, and as much as you represent Tassie, you still do stuff here.
Yeah.
There is, you've got Villy here, Helen Earth, who you do gigs with, but she's not here all the time. But
No.
she comes down as well.
Yeah.
Mishaps here.
Yeah.
You've got a crew of people that are in Melbourne now, so it must be cool coming here and doing gigs here as well.
Yeah, it's awesome. It was such an honour to put on Culture of Queens. I was supporting Cash Savage and the Last Strings, which is like more political, like rock band that played MONA FOMA, and they asked if I wanted to put my own gig on Wednesday. It was going to be the same thing, like a Grace Chia and supports thing. And I was like, I just wanted to put something on that was like all female hip hop lineup of like all like underground boom bap style. And yeah, came up with Culture of Queens, a flip on the Culture Kings, and I'd met all these people. I don't think I'd met Phoenix, and I hadn't met Mishap either, but I'd been following all of them for years, and I hadn't heard any of them play live. So I feel like it was almost like I'm just going to put on the gig that I want to hear. And it was such a sick vibe, and I'm going to bring that to Tassie next year, which will be awesome. And it'll be the first all-female hip-hop gig ever in Tassie, which will be sick, yeah.
That's pretty cool feather in your cap.
Yeah, it feels so exciting, and they're all awesome, true to themselves.
You're bringing that
different.
original lineup from here there.
Yeah.
Wow. And some other, I'm guessing, more Tassie artists as well?
Yeah. I want to put on my friend who's an awesome DJ. Her name's Quantum Puss, and she does dub and like drum and bass. And get my sister up. She goes under Esmerella and does boom bap as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff happening.
Yeah, a lot of stuff happening. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's it. You've got to stay busy and you've got to stay focused. Otherwise, if people with creative pursuits that don't act on them and waiting for perfect timing and stuff, it's never going to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
You can do it.
Yeah. And I think like this is what I've wanted for a long time. So I want to get to the point and be like, whoa, this is what you wanted. Yeah.
So you're here. You're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you want to tell us what's coming up? You've got another single coming out on the 30th.
Yeah.
Which is in a couple of days.
Yeah.
And then one on the 30th of December, I'm guessing, as well.
Yeah. I don't know exactly the date of December, but it will be in December. So the song coming out on the 30th is called Never a Juliet. It's the idea of not subscribing to the Juliet archetype from Shakespeare of like, I will die if I can't have the person I want. And also a flip on back in the day when all the men would play all the roles in Shakespearean plays.
Yeah, they used to play the pantomime stuff. It's weird, isn't it?
And it's kind of a parallel to now, like I think in not just in hip hop, but just in the things we see in society. So that's coming out on the 30th. I've worked with an amazing choreographer, Claire Thompson, and she has choreographed a dance with some of the hooks as backup dancers. There's a sick piece by Oms in the background of the video. And then I'm doing the Outside the Box Greeley and Mishap Tassie tour.
Yeah. Was that 5 dates?
5 dates, yeah. And then I'll come back to Melbourne. I'm supporting So Crates, and I'm going to put on a really mini headline gig with a support I haven't locked in yet. But yeah.
A mini headline gig.
Yeah, it's just going to be like me and one person on the 21st of December.
Let's talk about the Mishap and the Greeley Outside the Box gig, because that is a bunch of people from Tassie, but also a couple from not from Tassie.
Eric's like, he's going to be an honorary Tasmanian for that gig.
So tell everybody who's going to be on it and some of the cities that you're playing.
Yeah. So obviously Grills and Mishap, and then we've got Brother Pete, Eric, Lockie Hamill, Clara, and I. And T's going to be there from Breaking Bread, who is all putting it on. Yep. I can't think.
T
I don't
goes
think I've
above and
missed.
beyond, doesn't he?
100%. It's so awesome. Yeah. All the things they're doing so awesome. I've been stoked every time I can come to Melbourne. I think actually every time I've come to Melbourne this year, it's lined up with coming to a Breaking Bread gig. Yep. And the vibe is always so good.
And you know that T wanted to drive you down here.
Yeah.
He did.
That's so sweet.
He's done it like 5 or 6 times.
Yeah, that's awesome.
He just couldn't today, but yeah.
Yeah, because
he's just
legends.
down for the crawl. He's down for the cause.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So that gig will be cool because it's got a lot of people that now are based in Melbourne going back to Tassie, plus Mishap, plus, who'd you say? Eric Devine.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, cool. And that's going to be happening in early December.
Yeah, December the 5th to the 9th, I think.
So
yeah.
Next week and the week after.
Yeah, and so we're doing Hobart, Launceston, Devonport, St. Helens, not in that order.
Not in that order. Something like that.
Look it up. Yeah. But it's going to be sick, and it will just be epic. All the rural shows in Tasmania are so epic to do because there's not a lot, as we've talked about, happening there. But there are people who love hip hop, and there's a massive lineup of local supports that are jumping on in each of the shows as well.
So, yeah, it's a really cool way to showcase local artists from each of the cities.
Yeah, there's so many supports. Definitely come. Yeah.
I've heard Greeley's a bit like he can't walk the streets in Tassie. People are like,
yeah, it's actually crazy. Yeah, I remember going to like Hungry Jack's and like all these people being like, my God, it's Greeley. He's like, I just want to eat a burger. Yeah.
Oh, it's cool though.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah.
Just before we come into wrapping it up, do you want to shout anyone out? Do you want to tell? I think we've sort of talked about what's coming up, but do you want to say anything else in the final stages?
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Congrats on 100 plus episodes.
Yeah, more than that, but yeah.
Yeah, well over that now. We're in the future right now as well.
We're a couple episodes in the future, yeah.
Big love to Tassie. Big love to DJ Then Some, who's played all these gigs with me in the last few years, and to Lockie, who has recorded, mixed and mastered, made the clips and all this stuff for me for many years. And yeah, love to all the queens that are doing their thing. And yeah, keep being you, keep doing your thing. Yeah.
And if people want to work with you, can they hit you up? Have you got enough on your plate at the moment?
Still hit me up. Yeah, I'm always keen to collab if I've got the time. Yeah, for sure. DM me, or I've got a website with my email address. It's just gracechia.com.
Grace, it's been a good chat. I appreciate you coming in here. And yeah, I'm really keen. Next time you're in Melbourne, well, maybe not next time because you're here a lot. But when you're in Melbourne next year, come back in and we'll have a chat and see where you are on your journey.
Yeah, that'd be sick. Thank you so much for having me.
No worries. Cheers.
Sick.